niggas will get you shot too. Come with the clean and crew, you kick a bucket when they mop you. So fuck the streets and the system guarding elites. With military police, got people scary to speak. Tell your story, tell your story, tell your story. Can't nobody tell a better pain of glory. So tell your story, tell your story, tell your story. Better you than people finding out on more. So tell your story, tell your story, tell your story. Can't nobody tell a better pain of glory. So tell your story, tell your story, tell your story. Better you than people finding out on more. Tell your story, man.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of our virtual artist storytelling, where our guests come and share their life's maps with us. Okay, you feel me? So this evening, y'all, we have the beautiful Miss A-Larenee. Did I say that right?
Almost. A-Larenee.
Okay, A-Larenee. Okay, working on it, y'all.
Hey.
Y'all, she's here to share her story with us. I'm super excited. I know the team is super excited. I hope our viewers are super excited. But with that being said, the floor is yours and this is your platform.
Well, hello. Thanks for having me. My name is A-Larenee. So here, where do we begin? So I feel like a lot of people, most people know me as like A-Larenee from Newark, the opera singer, but I go by A-Larenee, the artist, A-Larenee, the pluralist, because my hand is in a lot of different pots these days. So started off singing opera. Well, let's start from the beginning. Had voice lessons. My grandmother wanted me to have voice lessons, and I go into my first voice lesson, and my teacher is an opera singer. So she asked me to sing something for her. And I think I sang some song that was on the radio at the time. I was 11 years old. And then she asked me to sing. She goes, well, can you sing this for me? And she sang maybe like a 9-note scale, like me, ma, or whatever. And I just kind of mimicked what she did. And I had never heard that come out of my body. And then from then on, I was just singing classical music. So I was studying every Saturday at Newark School of Arts, piano, classical theory, and eventually got accepted to Arts High School in Newark. While I was in high school, I competed in the Star Ledger Scholarship for $40,000, which afforded me the opportunity to go to college. And I actually won that. I won first place, and I went to New England Conservatory of Music. While I was at New England Conservatory of Music, I always felt like, I'm going to go into this. This is going to be what I want to do. This is my purpose. I want to be an opera singer. And then I don't know if I ever had this conversation with my father, but I knew I was going to grad school. And after my senior recital, I had a moment and I had to be honest with myself. And I decided not to go to grad school last minute. And I felt like the reason why I wanted to go to grad school is because that is the typical trajectory for most classical singers. You do your undergrad, you do your grad. But I didn't just want to be an opera singer. I knew that I was good at that. I knew that's what people knew me for. I knew that that was what I was most comfortable with. But I had to be honest with myself. And I decided not to go because I'm like, I want to sing other genres. I want to do other things. There are other things that feed my soul. And I felt like, even though I still love opera and I still sing opera and I still get gigs for opera, it's such an exacting craft that I feel like a lot of people say, oh, you're an opera singer, so you can do anything, right? But I think people don't know the other side of it, right? The psychology behind it, right? So because it's such an exacting craft, right? In a way, it can stunt your growth when it comes to other genres.
Right, and I definitely
You know what I mean?
It's
like a ballerina, wanting to then go into hip hop. or go into, you know, contemporary. So you have to be willing to unlearn all of that stuff, because when I found myself singing genres or doing other things that didn't require that rigidness, you know, I struggled. So I felt the need to not necessarily give up on opera, because I still love it and I still sing it, but like more so surrender to it and step away from it, because I felt like I was not going to be able to become the artist that I envisioned myself being if I went to grad school for it. You know?
A-Larenee, we got a few questions. Mr. King Philip down there, and also Young Activist has a question after he does.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Young Activist. I know you was first.
I did ask my question first. Hey, so my question is being an opera singer seems pretty unorthodox in the Black community, right? Non-traditional. How do your peers, the people who look at you, you know what I'm saying, look at you as an opera singer? Like, are you performing for majority Caucasians? You know what I'm saying? Like, what does that look like in the Black community? Like, do they got you just doing the national anthem or something? Like, also, you know, as a...
I think there's been a range of things. I'll be honest with you. I feel like growing up, being from Newark, being Black, singing opera, right? It's a bit of an anomaly. And some people would go, oh my gosh, like, you sing opera, like it's a big deal, right? But then some people are like, okay, well, can you sing regular? And I'd be like, you know, what's regular? Like Beyonce. And I was like, oh, like, can I sing pop? Can I sing R&B? And I'm like, yeah, like I can sing that, but you know, that was never a comfort zone for me. So I will be honest, I feel like because I got that a lot, right? And I think a lot of Black singers, a lot of them tend to be church grown. A lot of people expect you to be church grown, have a church grown voice, have a big, you know, I call it stank, right? Have this like gospel churchy voice. And because that was always the expectation, it created some complexes for me vocally, you know? It made me not comfortable singing other genres, because I'd be like, okay, like I don't sound like this other Black girl. So maybe classical is where I need to live. So then in a way, I feel like I lived in that world because it allowed me to also hide my insecurities, you know, musically, which stems from those complexes that was created.
Okay. So
but white folk, sorry.
Nah.
When I would tell a white person, you know, and I got it all the time, because I worked at Apple fresh out of college, because I decided not to go to grad school. As soon as I got out of college, I got a job at Apple, right? Which was a big deal for me, because it's a company that I've always respected. And so thousands of people applied and only 5 people were hired during that season for that particular store. And I have to do a lot of rapport rebuilding, right? Rapport building. And I'd have conversations with white folk, and I work in Short Hills Mall, which is a very upscale mall. And a lot of people are coming in there. You don't have to sell anything to them. They're coming to buy, you know, and a lot of them come in there with this very entitled attitude. And you have these conversations, and they'll be like, oh, okay, where'd you go to school? And I'd be like, you know, I went to New England Conservatory of Music. Like, I went to school for opera. Oh my gosh, really? You know, they're really shocked by that. So yeah, and that has been my experience with white folk when I tell them I sing opera.
You're like, you're Black. No way,
right.
A Black person sings opera.
Right. They're like, oh my God, like, as if it's not possible. We do it all. We could do anything.
The best singers sing opera now. Oh.
Right.
Okay, word. And then, okay, well, I'll ask my next question, because I want to hear what King Philip said. And we're gonna ride back around.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for sharing with me, man. And thank you for coming in and sharing your story with us too, A-Larenee.
And
what was
more.
it like?
There's more. That was
halfway,
but we're gonna get to it.
what was it like growing up in New York? I mean, in New York. Did I say that right? New York.
And all right, so here we go. We're gonna do a quick Newark. We're gonna do a quick like diction lesson specific to Newark.
Please,
Okay, so it's
please.
Newark, right? But if you're from Newark, you take that glide out. It's Newark. It's Nork.
All right.
Isn't it Newark?
It's Newark. Like when you're
No.
from Newark, we don't say Newark. We say Newark. Newark. Like New York, Newark.
Well, y'all are wrong. No, I'm just playing.
Yes. What was it like
And
growing up in Newark?
yeah, and to be more specifically, I don't know how old you are, but I'm looking more specifically on the gang culture out there.
So, to be honest with you, gotta be honest, I feel like that's not something that I experienced a whole lot because I feel like my father wanted to shield me from those things. So even though I grew up in Newark, like in the heart of Newark, that wasn't something that I experienced or saw a lot of. My father was a cop and he was a well-respected cop. People knew him in the community. He didn't bother anybody that may have been doing, extracurricular illegal things. Like, I feel like I'm thinking about my childhood, like it may be gangbangers, drug dealers on the corner. So as soon as my father came around, out of respect, they would leave the corners. And I feel like they had that understanding and they had a mutual respect for one another. So I didn't really experience any of that because of the community policing my father did and because of the relationships that he built with the people in the community, in our vicinity.
That's dope. And would you say having a father, we look at the role that Black men play in the community, and the Black man in Denver. I'm gonna speak specifically for Denver. It's almost like the masculation of them is like it's very accepted. Where
The
men
emasculation of the Black man in Denver is accepted?
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Where they're just complacent with being just the Black men of the 50s is not who we are now today. That's what I'm getting to.
Okay.
What do you think? How do you think the role that your dad has played on you has led into you looking at, when it comes to men who want to date you, who want to get your attention? How do you weed out what they say, the fuck boys?
So this is probably a loaded response, but one, I feel like my father instilled values in me that easily allow me to weed out the fuck boys. Okay. The other thing with that is I feel like self-worth, self-perception, I think has a lot to do with your ability to manifest, right? I think because I know my worth, I don't manifest people with low frequency shit. Sorry, Daddy. I know my father's here cursing. Oh, sorry. You're seeing another side. You're seeing another side, but hey, we're doing this together. So I think because my father instilled those values in me and my parents in general, and he set a strong example of what a man should be and how a man should treat a woman. I think, and then because of who my father is and because of his characteristics, and I feel like I inherited all of that. When it comes to stuff like that, it's just kind of like, listen, like this is what I expect. These are my standards, and I'm not going to bend them for anyone because I know what I deserve.
Thank you. Thank you. I know we have a few questions from the audience. I mean, go ahead, G.
Tabs was next. Tabs, you wanna?
So yeah, I'll go ahead and ask my question. So because you didn't really go full fledged in pursuing your opera thing with graduate school and stuff like that. So what areas did you want to go into outside of opera, and are you successful in those areas now?
Yes, totally, right? I decided eventually that I was interested in musical theater. So in the last year and a half, I transitioned to musical theater. I worked for Apple for 5 years, and I was still performing, doing gigs here and there, but I left the company in 2018 because I decided that I wanted to go into performance full time. And honestly, Apple, I just couldn't deal with it anymore. It just became a dark place for me, and I needed to leave. I just felt like I could no longer grow there. So yeah, since leaving Apple, I've been doing musical theater. I've done some commercial work. I actually just did Arizona I'm not supposed to say this. Sorry. They have a new product that they're launching, and I was a part of the launch. So I shot a commercial for that last week. And as far as musical theater, I've done Evita. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the musical. And I did The Little Mermaid, Disney's The Little Mermaid. My last day on stage, actually, because theater shut down, right? Because of the pandemic, was February 24th of 2020. So I did a 2-month run of that. And I was one of the mermaids, Andrina, one of Little Mermaid sisters. So that has been a great experience. And it kind of sucks because I was just getting my feet wet in the musical theater world, really hitting the pavement, going to audition after audition after audition after audition. And then the world shut down. But I am so grateful to God that I had that experience, because once the pandemic hit, I was still kind of on a high of being able to do that.
Okay.
Now, and then since we're talking about the pandemic, I think a lot of artists during the pandemic, I think it was a dark time for a lot of artists. I think it was a dark time for a lot of people in general in many different ways. But I think it was also an illuminating time in many ways, and very transformative. And it forced a lot of us, and me included, to kind of dig deep and find other outlets, because I couldn't be on stage. Theaters were shut down. Theaters are still shut down. So it kind of forced me to find other ways to use my voice, right? I don't have to just use my voice. I don't have to be physically phonating to use my voice. You know what I mean? I could find other mediums to do that. So I became a botanist, and I feel like a lot of people went plant crazy during this time, but then I also picked crochet back up, and I turned it into a whole business. I actually just dropped a collection last week. And every collection that I drop is inspired by something. So this last collection, I was paying homage to Newark, and I named each piece. When I crochet mostly accessories. So usually bags and beanies and bucket hats, right? And I sell out every single time. I'm so grateful for that. But I want every collection to have a story. I want it to resonate with people. The last collection I did was inspired by this children's book called Black Sugar Fairies. And it was about a world of Black fairies. And I named each piece after a character in the book. So in this collection, I was like, I made all of these color blocked beanies. And I was like, you know what? Blocks. I was like, these are color blocked. So I called it Hugging the Block. And I named each piece after a block that was significant to my childhood in Newark. And for the product shots, I used a satellite view of each block, but specific parts of the block that meant something to me. And I dropped that last week, and that did very well. I sold out. So I'm also a crochet artist too. So yeah.
That's amazing. So there is a follow-up question I have for you, and then I'll pass it to the next person with the question. But my next question was, as far as like your singing aspirations, including musical theater and things like that, what would you say is your just 3-year goals? Where do you see yourself in 3 years when it comes to musical theater and your musical career?
I would love to start performing again. Auditions have been pretty scarce because theaters are still shut down. And, I know Broadway is slated to open for June 2021 this year, but I'm not sure about that. But I would love to continue to perform, but also be running my own businesses. Yeah, crochet. And then I also have another business on the horizon. And then I'm also starting one with my boyfriend, who he actually is a designer at Reebok. So we're actually beginning to start a brand together as well. So if I could just perform as well as run my own businesses, like that's good for me.
That's dope. That's very, very, very dope. I believe G has a question.
Yeah.
Yes. So we got a question in the chat which kind of goes along with my question as well. So we'll tackle two birds with one stone. But so Gadiel says, from your view as an opera singer, is there a big Black presence in that community? Do you see discrimination? And then my question that kind of goes along with that is, how do you think we can make opera more popular in the Black community? Because we do it all, but it's just not one of those genres that is popular within the Black community. But I feel like it should be, because every genre should be popular in the Black community, because we do it all. So that's my question.
Right. So it's interesting that you asked me this, because I taught this. I did a presentation once on opera and hip hop. And there's so many hip hop songs that have sampled opera. Dipset was probably the first collective I heard years ago that sampled classical music. And I feel like it's all around us. It's always been around us, but we just didn't realize it. I actually taught it for the YP, this organization that my father is in charge of. And the kids were blown away because they were like, oh my gosh, like I didn't realize that was that. And I'm like, yeah, you've been listening to opera all your life. So, yeah. And also, I think there's a lot of Black opera singer pages on Instagram. I can also put that in the chat in a few, so that you can get a little bit more acquainted with the opera world and its specific Black singers in the opera world who are amazing.
Yes, thank you for that. And then back to Gadiel's question. Do you see discrimination in opera, between Blacks and whites?
I wouldn't say, because I'm not so much in that world anymore. I'm just thinking back. Sorry, just give me a minute. I'm just thinking back to so what I'll say is, I wouldn't say that I experienced discrimination per se. What I will say is that I have worked with teachers that I think as black people, right? Like vocally, there's this notion, right, in the opera world, right, where Black opera singers might have a warmer sound, might have a darker sound, right? And I will say that I have worked with teachers, white teachers, because there aren't many Black opera classical teachers that I have worked with that may say, we need you to lighten it up a little bit, or we need you to make it a little brighter, you know? And I think, and whoa, something else just came to mind. I'm so sorry. Another thing, and I know a lot of classical singers have had this experience, right? Because of our sound, because of the rich, warmer quality that we have, there is a thing in conservatory specifically, right? Like where they will have the Black sopranos sing alto and tenor. They don't allow us to sing our voice part. Because of the quality of our sound, they feel like we stick out in a choir, in an ensemble. So when I think about discrimination, that is one thing that comes to mind. And if you ask any Black classical singer that has gone to a conservatory who is an actual soprano, they will tell you, yeah, my choir director, she made me sing alto or tenor one. So that is definitely a thing.
I just have a question to and it's not interrupting nobody. I don't know what is an alto? Is that like your voice level?
Yeah,
like,
no. I'm so sorry. It's the lower voice part. So it's usually a lower female voice part. So there's bass, baritone, there's tenor, there's alto, and there's soprano. So like I'm a soprano. I have never sang soprano throughout my entire college career because they feel like we have this rich quality and they usually want to utilize that for the inner voice parts. They want to utilize the Black voices for the inner voice parts. Because exactly, alto and sometimes tenor one. And generally we do have a pretty wide range. Exactly. So that is definitely a thing that happens in that world for sure.
That's dope. Okay, I know Mark had a question, and then we'll tackle the rest of the questions in the chat.
I was gonna go ahead and do that, G, so it's all straight.
Okay. Go ahead.
All right, so Gadios part 2. Your performance by Straus was very good. What was going through your mind on this performance?
Wait, where did they see this performance?
YouTube.
Oh gosh.
I just looked it up too.
Away with the music of Broadway. Be off with your Irving Berlin. Oh, that is such an old performance.
Yeah, I found it not too long ago.
To be very honest with you, so in that song by Straus, he is making fun of himself. It's like a little joke, right? Because Gershwin, right? Ira George Gershwin, they wrote by Straus, right? And Straus was the it composer at the time, right? They were contemporaries. So I feel like in that song, oh gosh, that's a really old performance. He was making fun of himself. Gershwin is making fun of his own music, basically saying like, ha ha ha, my music sucks, like because it doesn't sound like Straus. And he's making fun of the German elements of pop elements of classical music of that time. So that's what I wanted to deliver in that performance.
That's awesome. So question 3. Would you ever consider teaching music theater to children?
Sure. I would consider teaching voice. I feel like musical theater is something that I'm still, obviously, I sing it, but I'm kind of still new in that world. So I definitely would want to get a lot more repertoire under my belt before I start teaching musical theater specifically, but voice for sure.
100. So you kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but I'm just curious to know why you chose opera over, because I mean, even in that little, I'm not even going to try to replicate what you did, but I can hear you have a good voice. So I'm just curious to know why you chose opera over pop or R&B, that type of stuff? Not
So
saying you
honestly,
did anything wrong, because you know that's awesome that you chose opera.
so I'll be honest with you. I wouldn't even say I chose opera. I think it kind of chose me at that time. You know, my first voice lesson, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know my teacher was a classical teacher. And there were different types of teachers at New England Conservatory. I mean, not New England Conservatory, Newark School of Arts. She was a classical singer. So when she heard the potential, that's when she was like, okay, I see what you have. And she wanted to cultivate that. And I was just open to it. And I grew to love it myself. So it kind of just, happened on accident. I never went in going like, I want to be an opera singer. That's just kind of how it unfolded.
I feel you. Have you tried like performing any R&B also, or no?
So yeah, actually I'm working on a project.
That's lit.
Yeah, I'm actually working on a project. It's funny because at NEC, I was down the street from Berklee School of Music. Are you familiar with Berklee School of Music? In Boston. So it's right down the street, right? A lot of people thought that I went to Berklee because I spent more time at Berklee than I did my own school. I mean, I did well in school. I was there. I did well, and I'm into academia, but I spent more time at Berklee because there were more Black people there. So that resonated with me more, and that's where I wanted to be. They had more going on there. And I want to say around September, I reached out to an old friend from Berklee. Amazing. He plays keys. He's worked with some of the greats. And I just reached out to him and I was like, hey, listen, like, I've been wanting to write my own music, but I need someone I have a sound in my head. I need someone who understands, who can help me bring this to life. And we got together in October, and now we are working on a joint project together. And that should be coming out by the summer. I was just at the studio on Monday, actually. So yes, and it is, I wouldn't say that it's just R&B. It is a hodgepodge. It is everything. You're not going to be able to put it in a box sonically at all. It's everything. I incorporate my classical, it's alternative, it's funk, it's pop, it's jazz, it's ambient, but it all has a through line. And it's a perfect reflection of me, which is a quilt, and it's colorful, So yeah, I have been doing that.
That's awesome. Did you say hodgepodge?
A hodgepodge.
Oh.
Like
okay.
It's a mixture of everything. Like it's a melting pot. It's multi-genre.
Understood.
Yeah.
Tabitha, I believe you're next.
All right. My question is kind of going back to that whole discrimination piece with, the different voice ranges between, because the sopranos are typically high and the altos are a little bit lower. So,
right.
And they force the people that are higher to sing lower because of the range and the flavor.
And the quality, the timbre of our voices. Right.
Exactly. So, would you say it's the same way in the men, where maybe somebody that's a tenor, or no, not somebody that's a tenor sings a bass, but somebody that's a bass
sings the tenor?
Yes.
Oh, well, it would be tenor singing bass. Yeah, tenor singing bass. Not necessarily. I wouldn't say that was the case because there were more Black female classical singers at my school. Well, it was only like 3.5 of us, literally 3.5. So at the time, I think it was only like 2 Black male classical singers. So they were definitely singing their voice part and they were basses. But for the Black classical, like the female singers, they made us sing alto all the time. I never sang soprano, and I'm a soprano.
Okay, because the reason why I was asking that is because it seems to me like it would be easier for like a bass person to get lower than it is for a bass person to get higher. So I'm like, I don't know. It just I don't know because there's keys that girls that are sopranos that they can hit like as far as like a high A that
Yeah,
are like a alto can't hit that high A because that's above their scale range.
right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I feel like I didn't really see it much with men, but it happens with women. Like I speak to other classical singers who never sang soprano in their conservatory. Like they always had to sing alto.
Dope. Thank you. I believe Young Activist had a question.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
All right, so we ran it right back around. So my next question going into being a black opera singer. Who is your musical inspiration? You know what I'm saying? I have an inspiration and influence that, influences a lot of things I do. Like who's your favorite artist and who's your musical inspiration on like who you trying to mimic or, in order to, get to your what you label as success route within the musical industry.
Okay, so I have multiple inspirations and it really depends on the genre. If we're talking about opera, I had different inspirations for different like for German, for Italian art song, for French art song. But I would say I wouldn't say that I try to mimic anybody. I think I have a lot of different influences and I have a really wide musical palette. For a very long time, I didn't have a favorite artist. But I will tell you one of my favorite artists is. I wouldn't say that I try to mimic their trajectory or their path though. But I will tell you the artist that is my favorite, who I revere, and that is Kendrick Lamar. And I've had a lot of, throughout the years, like, Kanye, who, Frank, but like a range of people. But he's special. He's really, really special. And I feel like he kind of checks off all the boxes for me musically. Intellectually, spiritually, sonically, emotionally. All of his projects tell a story. They have arc. He utilizes every part of his instrument. I could go on and on. I don't want to be like I could go on and on, but he is my favorite artist.
Okay,
Yeah,
word.
1000%.
That's dope.
But in opera, like Leontine Price, Grace Bumbry, Shirley Verrett, Sophie von Otta, if I want to listen to German art song, or German lieder. Solange, Bjork. I have a lot of different inspiration. I love funk.
Do you listen to Mariba?
Who? Mariba?
Yeah.
Mariba?
How do you pronounce her name?
Mariba's cool.
Yes.
Mariba, yeah, Mariba's cool. She's got that popular song with JID, Sandstone. Yeah.
That song's amazing.
Yeah. I listen to everything. Hiatus Coyote, Glasper, love Thundercat, love Anderson .Paak, love his mind. I met him about a year and a half ago. He's amazing. Everything he makes everything he's on sounds better. Everything he touched is just. I can't wait for his duo with Bruno Mars, Sonic Silk. It's just gonna be. It's like too good to be true. It's gonna be like too perfect. Bruno Mars and Anderson .Paak. And I don't listen to a whole lot of Bruno Mars, but I think he's an incredible entertainer. I think he's really up there. Yeah.
Oh, word, definitely. I agree
Yeah.
with you. Bruno Mars is that man. Shout out to my Puerto Rican brothers and sisters out there.
Isn't he? Oh, he's mixed. Yeah, he's mixed. I was like, isn't he Hawaiian? But yeah, he's like a lot of different things. Yeah.
Just kind of answering this question that's in the chat. How did you feel about landing your role in Power on Star?
Oh gosh, that was like, okay. Wait, where'd you get that from? So that was not an actual role. I was just it was season 2, I want to say episode 8, the vibe party episode. I was just a girl going to the vibe party and I had to have my afro out and they were looking for a few girls who had natural hair, like afro and twist. It was more of like a background thing, but I did see myself. It wasn't an actual featured role. Just so you know.
Hey, did they pay you for that?
Yeah, well, of course.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know. Shoot, sometimes people just like the
Oh,
opportunity.
well, I guess people do. Yeah, I'm not doing that for free. Sorry.
She said, "You gonna have to pay for me, baby."
Yeah,
But you
no,
told
me or
absolutely
pay me
not.
no
That was a really long night. That was more of a and like it's cool, but like doing the background type of stuff, it's rough. Like you really have to have patience. Like I said I would never do it again. Listen, I don't knock anybody who ever does it, but it's a real trying experience. You know, I got there 6:48 a.m. We didn't start shooting till 5 p.m. Like it's tough. It's rough. And when you do background stuff, I think it depends. Everybody's had a different experience, but my experiences, like I've done the Get Down, I shot the movie Ted 2, I did Power. Like those are my only like 3 background experiences. But I did see myself. I was, and I did see myself a few times. Yeah. You know the episode where they're like battling each other?
Yeah.
I was like one of the Get Down kids. So you see me like, yeah.
Bro, I wish I was in that joint, bro. I have the perfect hair. That's crazy.
No, it was cool, but like
Literally.
it's not, that life is not glamorous. I was also like I was having a bad reaction to glycerin on my legs because we were shooting in the winter, but it was a summer scene and they wanted to make us look like we were sweaty. It was a rough experience. And I had a bad reaction to the stuff they were like putting on people. Like they were going from person to person, taking glycerin, rubbing it on your face, going to the next person, rubbing it on their face. And I'm like, ma'am, can you get a new cotton ball or a new glove or something? Like, what's going on?
If she did that now, she would have went to jail for COVID spreading.
Absolutely not. That cannot happen anymore. But it's interesting. Even the thing that I shot. So when I shot the commercial for Arizona, that was really interesting. It was only 2 other people. I had to have a COVID PCR test. 72 hours later, they're very strict. Like you have to have it 72 hours before you come to set, and you have to send us your negative results. And the entire time, Arizona is on a Zoom call just directing. So there's not a lot of people on set. We're just shooting, showing Arizona, the people in Arizona, like a reference, like, and they're like, yeah, we like that. Can you have her change into the light blue wash? All right. Can you actually put a pink shirt on her? But it was really cool. I had to have 2 manicures because it was mostly a hand modeling spot. So I'm like, oh yeah, I do that now too. I'm a hand model. I know. So I'm like pouring the can and like holding the cup and like pouring. And I learned a lot on set. It was very cool. And they were all very nice. So yeah, things are definitely different now. So it's like, one, I got to worry about, okay, am I going to book this? I do all the work. Am I going to book this? But now once I book it, I got to make sure I got the cooties. So now I got to go and get a PCR test and hope that I get it in time to send it to casting. So yeah.
Okay. So I think G had a few questions, so I'm gonna go ahead and pass it to my sister.
I did, and kind of in the midst of the questions we were getting about your stardom, I kind of lost mine. Yeah, but I do want to know because
yeah,
before we got Princess and the Frog, actually having a Disney princess that represented us. The Little Mermaid is my favorite Disney princess. Okay, I can quote the movie word for word, begin
Right.
and love Little Mermaid. So
Look at
I
this
just want to
stuff.
know, like, what was that experience like? You played one of the sisters. That's just dope. That is, everything you've done is dope. And as I'm talking, I'm remembering my question, but I want to know, the Little Mermaid. What was that experience like?
You know what? It was a really great experience. It kind of happened overnight in
Mm,
2 days. In 2 days, honestly. One thing about this business that I'm learning, I think about in any realm, honestly, in any world, but specifically the entertainment world, is like it's a numbers game. And when I say numbers game, it's about how many times you go into a room, how many times that casting director sees you, right? There may have been times where I didn't book something and another girl booked it, right? But it doesn't mean that she was better than me. It just means that that casting director saw her 2 more times than they saw me. So they
mm,
know what she can do. They trust what she can do. And she's had more opportunities to build a relationship with those people. And that's why when you coach with people like the coach that I was coaching with, he's like, that's why you need to be in an audition at least 3 times a week. Like you need to be doing 3 times a week because 9 times out of 10, you are going to run into the same people, you know, building relationships. So how I got that, I still had to audition for that. But one of the coaches, my coach, the pianist that he uses, I would coach with her sometimes. And I built a really, really good relationship with her. Her name's Devin. She's amazing, Devin Parry. And she said that they were still casting for The Little Mermaid at Argyle Theater. And she told somebody like, hey, like I know someone who might be great. And I still had to audition. I still had to send a self-tape. I still learned all the music, memorized the music, did my self-tape. Then I'm scrambling to find footage from my last show because they wanted to see how well I moved for dancing, right? And I submitted it, and the next day I booked the show. And it was just like that. And that's why one thing that I'm learning is that like simply being good to people goes a very long way. Being kind to people goes a very long way because you don't know when you're going to need that person. You don't know when they're going to think of you, when they're going to consider you, when they have an opportunity, you know? So that was an amazing experience. I miss it. It was a year ago now, and it feels like it was yesterday. It's crazy because what was really unfortunate about that is that as soon as I booked it, once I went into rehearsals, I got terribly sick. And thinking back on it, I think it was COVID because COVID was around in December 2020. We just didn't know. And around that time, so many singers I knew who were in and out of New York was sick as a dog. Like my entire cast dropped. Like they were dropping like flies. And I believe we all had COVID. We just didn't know what it was called. Everybody just thought it was like a flu or bacterial infection or something. I think it was COVID. So it was, although I was super grateful for that experience, I felt like my body was being dragged by a pickup truck for days because I'm waking up at 6 a.m. I'm going to the theater district in New York for rehearsal from 9 to 6 every day, right? It was a pretty diverse cast, but you know, I'm the only Black girl. And I'm pretty sure, like, like when you're going into these spaces where you're the only Black girl, there's like a psychology that people who ain't Black don't understand what's going on, right? Like, one, I don't want to be late. I want to leave. I want to make a good impression. I don't want them to think that, like, oh, I'm an angry Black woman. And I didn't feel well. I really didn't feel well, but I was just trying to make sure I had a smile on my face because I didn't want to give them a reason to even think. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't want to confirm any preconceived notions, So that was going on in my head too. But I did all of that. It was my second show. So then like wondering like, okay, am I good enough? You know, imposter syndrome. And I pushed through. I pushed through every single day. I would come home and I would get in my bathtub and I would be so tired. And I would just sit in my bathtub and cry because I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like an opportunity of a lifetime. And I'm doing it while sick. Like I feel crazy, but I can't miss these rehearsals. I need to get it. And I got it done. And we got to show up in 10 days. And we were in Long Island. And the show started and the run started. And it really showed me what I'm capable of doing that, having that experience. But also, the cast was amazing. The artistic team was amazing. The costumes were amazing. I love the fact that they made sure, like, when I had flesh tone stuff, like it was really my complexion. My wigs were textured, which you don't see stuff like that. Like I really appreciated that. Like I had a really cool, like textured wig, like, and it made sense because like I'm a Black girl and I got, you know what I mean? I have curly hair. So it was a great experience. Like I really loved it. Sorry, I like kind of like went into this whole,
No,
I'm doing a lot of talking, but it was a really good experience.
Detail.
No, it was great. The cast was great. And it was very diverse. And it was amazing. And then we were like in the thick of the run, I was telling people like, you know, this is my second like show, my second musical ever. They're like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah, but that's good. That's a good thing. So I murdered it though. I murdered it. I pushed through and I was a soldier. So yeah, it was great.
I love that answer because, like, we, oftentimes we only get to see the success, and it's everything behind that makes the success so powerful. So it's like, just, with being young, it's important knowing that when you want something and you truly want something, you're gonna face obstacles and trials and tribulations that make you want to give up or make you feel like you're drained and stuff. So it's like, knowing everybody goes through those times where they have to push through and all of that. So it's like, I love your answer because it's the authenticity of what really was going on and not just the glory of the end game. That was dope. And then I want to know, out of your career of what you've done, who is somebody that you have met that has just changed your life, your perspective, and has really just influenced a certain way of thinking for you in any area, music, theater, not artistic, in just any area of life, somebody you've met that's really influenced your thinking?
That's a loaded question. I'm gonna have to think on that.
Okay, that's fine. And while you do that,
There's a few
Danielle
people.
asked, you said, can you talk to the influence that your mother had on your career, your grandmother had on your career?
Oh, my grandmother. So, okay, because my grandmother, she passed. She was my biggest fan, and my grandmother was looking for auditions for me when I was too chicken shit to go to auditions. Okay. Because she saw my potential more than I saw my own potential. And I always hear her voice in my head when I'm sorry, guys. Like, I'm so sorry. I'm getting a little emotional. I'm so sorry. So sorry. I always hear her voice in my head when I have a moment. When I feel like I can't do it, where I feel like I am not enough, especially going into audition rooms when that was a thing, right? Before the pandemic. I have a moment with myself and I have a moment with her. And I remember her telling me as a kid when she found auditions for me and I was too afraid to go. I was just so afraid to show people what I had. And she'd say, baby doll, you got to show up. You got to get in the room. You got to show them what you can do. So I apply that to every aspect of my life. When I'm feeling doubt, I think about my grandmother. I hear her voice. You got to show up. You got to show them what you can do. You got to get in the room. So, yeah.
That was beautiful. That was beautiful. Thank you for, expressing that
Yeah.
vulnerability with us. Go ahead, King Philip. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I mean, you answered my question, but I'll still ask it. What was one of the like most challenging things you've experienced
Mm, and in what I do,
in life, period?
oh gosh. Hmm. Hmm. That's rough for me. um, I think I mean, oh gosh, there's a few things. There's a few things. I wish I had some time to okay, you know what? The most challenging thing out of everything. The one thing I didn't talk about, which is I think really seminal to my story, is I've had 4 vocal injuries. 4. Um, and I always say to myself, it's a joke. I always say this is God's joke on me because he gave me this gift, but he gave me a gift with a sensitivity. And I have enlarged blood vessels in my vocal folds. Um, so having those injuries, like not being able to sing, not being able to speak, having to go on vocal rest for 6 days, going through series of voice pathology, trying to get my instrument back. That was probably the most soulless I have ever felt, you know? It's like it felt like somebody clipped my wings, you know? Um, yeah, that was really tough for me. And then going to different doctors, trying to figure out what I could do. Certain doctors telling me, oh, you need to have surgery. Other doctors telling me it's a very risky surgery. And then being at Apple in a place where I had to talk every single day, in a place where I felt like I was depleting my instrument. That was a very challenging time for me. So I've always, after that, having that experience, it changed my life because I kind of have to, so almost like I'm walking on eggshells all the time. You know, if you catch me in a bar, if you catch me at a party, I'm not talking to anybody. I'm texting everything because I'm so afraid. There's trauma. You know, there's this like PTSD from my injuries. So that was probably one of the most challenging times, dealing with injury after injury after injury and wondering like, what am I going to do? Because this is my bread and butter.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
G?
Yeah, you know, your story is beautiful, and your soul, your spirit, everything. And I just want to, on behalf of Malcolm, thank you for, joining us on our platform. And especially being able to express your vulnerability. I know that, can be tough sometimes. But we definitely appreciate it here. And I want to take this opportunity to ask you, would you join us back for a part 2? Because I know we didn't finish and there's so much more to you. We got to have you back for a part 2.
Yeah, I'm open to it for sure.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. So at this time, we are going to do our famous Malcolm thank you for you. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna ask everybody on here, please come off of mute. To our viewers who are watching, y'all know how we do. Do this behind your screen and your cameras and all of that. And we are going to thank you. We're gonna do our Malcolm naps. Is everybody ready for the naps? To
Snap,
thank our
snap.
beautiful guests. Y'all ready?
Come on,
1,
doctor.
2, 3.
Oh,
Look, we in there
bada
like
boom.
It sounded like four snaps, though.
Yes. But look, everybody who joined, who watched us, thank y'all for watching. Y'all know the drill. Y'all know how we get down. Check us out on all of. Thank you, sweetie. Check us out on all of our platforms. We got Make a Chess Move, Macam. We got Make a Culture Move, Macam. We got our website, makeachessmove.org. Check us out there. Facebook at Macam303.
Malcolm.
Instagram at Macam303.
Malcolm.
Twitter at
Mac and
Macam303.
303.
Pinterest at Macam303.
Interest.
Interesting.
Can I get a plug? Can I get a plug? Can I get a plug?
Oh, absolutely.
Please.
You can find me at Mo Boop and Betty on Instagram. Mo M-O Boop BOOP, like Betty Boop Van Betty. Mo Boop Van Betty. You can find me there.
Oh.
There we go.
Yeah, I heard that. And you got a project coming in the summertime, right?
Yeah.
We'll be sure to look out for that as
Check
well.
her out,
Yes,
y'all.
yeah.
Oh,
And
and
this
make
is
sure
some
to costume apparel.
Nice.
Macam gear.
Absolutely.
Wrong side, Tap.
I ain't got no Mac and grill.
Gives you some Macam gear, but yes, y'all, thank you to our viewers, thank you to our guests. Y'all, stay blessed and Macam out there.
Yes, indeed. Thank you again.